But Roger Stone has got a lot of big breaking news, a lot of big developments. Roger, great to have you here. We're going to break in about a minute, but give us a prelude to what you're going to be covering.
You know, Alex, you now have the New York Times and The Hill, two left-wing publications, openly admitting that Donald Trump's attacks on Ron DeSantis have had the desired effect, as has his combative, pugilistic approach to the various investigations. And he is literally soaring in the polls, and I think going to soon be untouchable for the Republican nomination, and once again, our strongest possible nominee. The governor DeSantis has misplayed his cards badly here. I want to talk to you all about it.
And we got 20 seconds to break, but average poll, Trump 28 points ahead of DeSantis. I mean, he's 15 to 20 points ahead of Biden in a rematch. I mean, wow, they really screwed the pooch with Trump, didn't they?
I think they've made an enormous mistake. You know, when the New York Times admits that things are going your way, they must really be going your way.
Wow. Well, I don't want us to all start celebrating yet here. Let's come back next hour and talk about it with the great Roger Stone, former top Trump advisor, and the guy that got Trump to run for the presidency. This is a big deal, big show tonight. Hour number 2 is only 2 minutes away. Band.video, Infowars.com, and the new Alex Jones for President shirts. Nothing triggers a libtard like them. They're available at Infowars store. Well, corporate media says 25,000 people. Local news reports that 40,000 fit inside the area they had, but just like January 6th, he had 40,000 inside the ellipse and another close to 1 million outside. People lined up for hours and hours, couldn't get in. If anything, Trump goes with 2 small stadiums. But, man, the rhetoric, bringing down the deep state, bringing down the New World Order, 28 points ahead of DeSantis in major polls. We'll be breaking that down on some stations. Join us in 5 minutes. But, Roger, let's jump into it right now.
Is there any other political figure in America that could command that kind of crowd and that kind of media attention, particularly when the mainstream media is doing their very best to pretend he doesn't exist? Trump is washed up. He's finished. He has no appeal. He's done. And then you see something like this, where he not only commands an enormous crowd, and look, Waco isn't Dallas, as you know. I mean, this is really a historical, political phenomena, and I think he laid it out better than I've ever heard him. Our problem is not Russia. Our problem is not China. Our problem is our own corrupted leaders. What could be more plain than that?
I totally agree with you, and you just hit the nail on the head. Trump's incredible success, still having rallies of 50,000 people, Texas 40,000, with almost no announcement, like 4 or 5 days pre-announcement in the middle of nowhere. I mean, folks, Waco's cow pastures, in case you didn't know. It's 2 hours north of Austin. This is the death of the corporate media's attempt to control debate, and it shows they don't have the power they claim.
It's absolutely true, Alex, and I must tell you, it was very foolhardy of me. I went on Twitter and I mildly criticized Matt Gaetz' red blazer. I said, I appreciate your support for President Trump, but I'd keep that red blazer for Christmas if I were you. I was so overwhelmingly outvoted that although I myself would reserve the red blazer for Christmas, Congressman Gaetz can wear anything.
I was about to say, he looks like when I was a kid and they had huge movie theaters in Dallas they've gotten rid of that have these giant screens. I don't know why things get less good as time goes on, but when I was a kid, my mom would take me to this big theater in Dallas to see classic movies like Ben-Hur and stuff that were re-showing. There's this gigantic movie screen, and they had men mainly and women in red blazers, and he looks like the person with the flashlight that takes you to your seat.
Yeah, the usher. It's the usher look, and we're not referring to the rapper singer in this case. But look, he gave a very fiery speech, and I love the fact that Trump basically announced all the congressmen that have endorsed him, and then he made reference to those who he endorsed, who he has clearly contacted, and they're saying, oh, I love you, Mr. President. I'm going to be for you. I'm just not ready to endorse you now. Trump basically said, if you're not with us today, we don't want you. I love that. That is vintage Trump. It is a time for choosing, and people have to decide, are you with the RINO establishment? I mean, Karl Rove blurts out on Fox referring to DeSantis as our campaign. What a stunning reveal that was.
All right, I'm going to shut up and give you the floor when we come back. I want to walk through the tables totally turning on DeSantis. He was neck and neck with Trump, some polls ahead just 2 months ago. What happened since then? Was it his endorsement of the war? Was it him saying his role model is George H.W. Bush, skull and bones? What did it? And then let's not get too positive here. They're still trying to indict Trump. And I know a lot of his family doesn't like him being all happy about this, but he knows he's innocent. Will he get indicted next week, or is Trump right that this Soros creature in New York is about to back off? Is it true? The witch hunt against me is dead. Trump says Manhattan DA tricked by fraud. Star witness who, again, he's not into Stormy Daniels, he says. He goes on to say Trump says he thinks Manhattan DA Alvin Bragg has dropped the case against him. We'll get all that from Roger Stone straight ahead. But I'll say this, and I'm not in the Trump ass-kissing club here because Trump drives me up the wall. He looks like he's lost 30, 40 pounds and looks great. In the photos and video I saw, looks like he's, for his age, my God, I'm jealous. We'll be right back. Stay with us. Roger Stone, straight ahead. And Roger Stone's with us for about 30 minutes at the bottom of the hour. Then we'll come right back to the loaded phone lines. Trump is now in major polls, 25 to 35 points ahead of DeSantis. Everybody else, their attempt to arrest him is blown up in their face. Here's a short clip of Matt Gaetz yesterday to a crowd of at least 40,000 people, standing room only, tens of thousands turned away in Waco, Texas.
Only Donald Trump could have rescued us from Hillary Clinton. Without Trump doing 3 rallies in the final week in the 2018 election in Florida, my governor today would probably be Andrew Gillum. How weird is that? And without Trump dragging Ted Cruz across the finish line, your senator would probably be Beta Beto. So Ron DeSantis, Ted Cruz, patriots of the MAGA movement delivered for you in your time of need. Today, Ron DeSantis and Ted Cruz should endorse Donald Trump for president and stand with us as we were so proud to stand with them.
All right, Roger Stone, I'm going to shut up. You got the floor. History happening right now. Deep state horrified. Will they indict Trump? What's really happening?
Well, so there's a certain irony in that clip you just showed, Alex, because other than Donald Trump, there's really no one in America more responsible for the election of Ron DeSantis in 2018 than Congressman Matt Gaetz. People have to remember that that DeSantis was running at about 7% in the polls. Every single 67 Republican county chairman in the state, the entire Republican power structure, had endorsed Ron DeSantis's opponent. It was Matt Gaetz who persuaded President Trump to endorse and take a chance on Congressman DeSantis. DeSantis zoomed ahead in the Republican primary, and then, as Matt Gaetz correctly said, Trump had to change his schedule to come to Florida in the final 2 weeks of the 2018 campaign to drag DeSantis across the finish line. What amazes me, Alex, is that Governor DeSantis has maintained his discipline under relentless taunts and attacks by Donald Trump, which is his combative, pugilistic style. If I had $1 for every person who contacted me and said, I love Trump and I like DeSantis, please tell him to stop attacking DeSantis. First of all, you're wasting your breath. Donald Trump makes his own decisions. But secondarily, that strategy has paid off 2 times. At one time, in the sense that Trump has taken on all of these investigations of him, whether they are by Soros stooge Alvin Bragg in Manhattan, or whether they are by Soros stooge Fannie Wills, the prosecutor in Fulton County, Georgia, or whether they are by special counsel Jack Smith. He has called them out as partisan witch hunts. You know that drives his lawyers crazy. You know his lawyers are saying don't do that, but he has galvanized the public. He's also taken on DeSantis, and then DeSantis loses his discipline and comes out in the worst possible way, says, I'm not getting involved in this effort to take down Trump by Alvin Bragg. I'm not getting involved. But he then recycles the fake charges. I don't know anything about hush money payments to a porn star, recycling the narrative of the left, infuriating Trump's supporters. Then he doubles down with Piers Morgan, makes it even worse. He attacks Trump's moral character. Are you kidding me, Governor? You didn't care about his moral character when he raised you out of obscurity and catapulted you to the governorship. You had no problems with his moral character then. It was a giant misreading and a tactical blunder. And this comes on the heels, Alex, of DeSantis trying to reinvent his position on the war in Ukraine to sound more like Trump. So he tries to say, well, Russia's not our biggest problem, and I'm against the blank check given to them by the Biden administration. And then when his globalist multimillionaire and billionaire donors go out of their minds, he flops back and says, well, Putin's a war criminal, which is just rhetoric designed to assuage the anger of his globalist donors. So he screws up his position on the war, and he gets the deep enmity of Trump country. Here's what the governor doesn't understand. His base is a microcosm of the Trump base, but the Trump base is broader, deeper, and far more intense. People like Ron DeSantis here in Florida, but they love Donald Trump. And new polls showing Trump leading DeSantis by 2 points in Florida, that's not bad, that's good.
What about the national polls of 28 points?
And the New York Times is even reporting it. The Hill is reporting it. He has zoomed ahead of DeSantis. He is the nominee apparent at this point. If I were Governor DeSantis, I would completely rethink my plan and not run.
Well, let me raise that. Even the New York Post says today, and I'll show it in a moment, it's in this big stack, I'm going to dig it out, that his top donors are telling DeSantis, hang it up and wait until another election.
Yeah, I've seen that. And then, of course, Karl Rove makes a giant blunder. Talking about the DeSantis campaign on Fox, he mistakenly slips and calls it our campaign. I think that tells us everything we want to know.
All right, so let me move on here, because I don't want to, and I get it's important to talk about DeSantis, but I don't want to obsess over him. What about Alvin Bragg? Are they still going to try to indict him? Is Trump right saying Bragg is going to drop it?
I don't think we know. You have to assume that George Soros' minions are on the phone putting the heat on Bragg even as we speak. Soros paid for Bragg's election. Bragg would like to have a political future. I learned the hard way in a D.C. courtroom: facts, truth, the law, those things don't really matter. I think Bragg's case blew apart last week with the testimony of Robert Costello to the grand jury. We only know about this because Costello has the right to talk about his testimony. He introduced evidence and documents proving that Alvin Bragg's principal witness, Michael Cohen, is a noted liar. Cohen lied about me. Cohen said before Congress under oath that he overheard a conversation between me and candidate Trump in 2016 in which I told him the WikiLeaks disclosures were coming. There's no record, telephone record to prove this. The secretary who he said came into the room to say that I was on the phone has no memory of it whatsoever.
But Roger, just stop right there. Let me back you up. You were a consultant, weren't officially hired here then. I was on your ass every 2 days saying I'd hire you and give you a job if you got WikiLeaks on. And did you know? And you said, no, I know Randy Credico. He knows him. He says it's going to be big. And the WikiLeaks, Assange was on TV going on Hannity saying that. So I know you didn't have it because you've always been honest with me. You're a very honest person, despite what the media says. You didn't have it. You never got it. I was very frustrated with you.
But Michael Cohen said this conversation happened before the Democratic convention in 2016. Then he changed his story and said it happened before the Republican convention. Alex, I can tell you exactly when it happened. Never. Michael Cohen is a liar. They didn't call him as a witness in my trial because they know he would have been destroyed on the stand. If Alvin Bragg moves ahead, relying solely on the testimony of Michael Cohen, particularly given the statement yesterday released by Trump from Stormy Daniels, in which even she and her lawyer, Michael Avenatti, say he's unreliable as a witness, this didn't happen. Bragg's case has been destroyed. Will he bring it anywhere? Anyway, it's Manhattan. Can you imagine what this jury will look like?
Well, that's the next question. What about Georgia? What about the D.C. cases?
Well, here's the point, I guess. If Trump were elected president, he would have the authority to pardon himself. He cannot pardon himself from a state conviction. So he needs to avoid being charged in New York or Georgia. And if they ultimately want to charge him federally, I don't see how they get that to trial before the 2024 election. Therefore, he could run for president while under indictment, wear it as a badge of honor in the sense that it's evidence that he's being persecuted for political reasons. And then upon his election, even before he goes to trial, he could pardon himself. How do you like that?
Well, let's talk about this when we come back. You know the deep state. You've studied them. What are they going to pull now? Because they sure as hell don't give up. And, wow, Trump right back in the driver's seat, more than a year and a half out from the next election. What a circus. This is going to be the most spectacular and most dangerous election ever. How do we keep it peaceful? Roger Stone's our guest. Stay with us. All right, Alex Jones here, back live on Sunday night. Your phone calls for all you holding Killer and Ignacio and Julio and Candace and Lewis and Kim and Bart and Mark and Gary Gold. Every one of you will get on air. We love you and appreciate you holding. But I had to get Roger on last minute because I just thought, I should try to get Roger on. Can he do it? And he was able to do it. Roger, in the 9 minutes we have left in this segment, I want to support Trump. And he is better because he's anti-war. And a lot of it, and his pedigree is not, I love George Herbert Walker Bush. Because I couldn't prove he was a Skull and Bones, but he says his idol is George Herbert Walker Bush and Yale. So to me, that has some major problems. I want to believe in DeSantis. And to me, it's not a beauty pageant here, but it really gets down to issues. So much the system likes DeSantis versus hating Trump. Why does the system hate Trump? And what do you, knowing him for 45 years, being his very close confidant, believe he'll do when he gets back in? He says, I'll destroy the deep state. I'll bring down the New World Order. Just that rhetoric alone really makes me be concerned for his safety. And let's be honest, that's a lot of questions. But the last question, what will the system do if they already went so crazy to stop him before it failed? What are they going to do now? That's my biggest concern, is that they are going to go crazy.
Well, I think they've already done it in the sense that they have weaponized our federal judicial system in an attempt to try to charge him in connection to either January 6th or his handling of classified documents prior to the election. The point, I guess, is that Donald Trump came to Washington in 2017 and he did not come from the world of politics. And therefore, it may have been somewhat naive. He had all the right instincts, but he believed there were two groups, two teams, the Republicans and the Democrats. He never realized that, unlike with Ronald Reagan, Republicans would not really close ranks around him, and that many Republicans were dedicated to his destruction. For example, acting Attorney General Rod Rosenstein was a Republican. Rosenstein, on the recommendation of the White House Chief of Staff, Reince Priebus, appointed Robert Mueller as a special counsel.
And then look at what Sessions did.
Sessions was every bit as bad by recusing himself. My point, of course, is that Trump is a man who's learned a hard lesson. I think a second Trump presidency will be RINO-free. You already see it in his campaign. Jared Kushner's not around. His daughter is not around. But Donald Trump Jr. and Eric, both hardcore patriots, hardcore American first, hardcore conservatives, they're front and center in his...
And notice, he didn't even want Abbott or Cruz at his rally yesterday. That's positive.
I'm having a little trouble with your audio here.
Sorry, Roger, I was saying he didn't want Abbott or Cruz at the rally either yesterday. That's a good sign.
Well, I mean, of course, my real question is, where was your governor? Where was your U.S. senator? I don't know if Ted Cruz is holding back, thinking that he's a potential candidate, but that's not going to happen. Donald Trump is not going to withdraw from this race under any circumstances. He will run whether he is charged in these completely politically motivated investigations or not, and I think that he will triumph. But, in all honesty, Governor DeSantis has to expect that there's going to be a deconstruction of his record, because many of the things that you believe, because he has said them, are not necessarily true. On the question of the vaccinations, his position is identical to that of Donald Trump. I met a man on Sunday, last Sunday, whose son died after taking the COVID-19 vaccination. And he told me that He decided to let his son take the vaccination because he saw Governor DeSantis on TV saying it was safe, it was effective, and it would protect his son from infection, which of course it didn't. This idea, I would have fired Fauci. He tells Piers Morgan, why don't you fire David Kerner, the vax Nazi that you just appointed to your cabinet 2 weeks ago? I mean, why didn't you fire your own advisors? This idea that he signed a ban, no, he signed a law giving immunity to anybody who pushed the vaccination and said it was safe and effective.
Okay, Roger, listen, I don't mind going there if you want to open this up, but Trump's been just as bad as DeSantis, and I'm mad at Trump about it, but in the larger picture, I get what you're saying. But regardless...
We both are. I agree with you, Alex. I don't like his position on the vaccination either, but don't try to tell me Governor DeSantis' position is different. He's trying to make it sound different. But what about taking $9 million from Florida Power and Light and then getting the greatest single rate increase for electricity that this state has
I
ever
understand
had?
that you want to destroy DeSantis to make the way for Trump. You think he's better. I respect that, okay? What I'm saying is I believe DeSantis is already eclipsed and is already in the rearview mirror. I'm now more worried about the deep state and how they come after Trump.
Look, they're going to do that anyway, which is why I think the single greatest mistake he or we can do is any intimation of violence or lawlessness. No, we're not for an insurrection. No, we're not for an uprising. No, everything.
So you agree with me flipping out this week with the baseball bat and the death and destruction thing? And I'm glad Trump removed that, right? He doesn't need that, right?
Entirely counterproductive. And I think this is absolutely key. Let us not step into the same trap that some patriots stepped into on January 6th. Why was the Secret Service calling my hotel room and telling me that they had been instructed to escort me to the Capitol? This was a trap that I, thank God, avoided. I know nothing about the illegal events of January 6th. You did go, and I saw the video of you. You jumped up on a chair and said, no, pull back, do not breach the Capitol. I saw it. But it was a setup, and we cannot fall for that setup again. So those who decide anywhere along in this process, if the president is indicted in New York, or if he is indicted in Georgia, or if he is indicted federally, and you want to go to a public protest, keep it peaceful, keep it civil, keep it orderly, keep it legal, because it's a trap. The only way they can stop this forward momentum of the America First movement is by incorrectly accusing us of trying to foment insurrection or violence. They are, in fact, the violent ones. We know this from history. They burned down half the country, but we have a two-tier justice system. So BLM and Antifa are not held responsible, but if you make any intimation that can be read, even if it's unfair, as advocating violence,